Hi, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope I've done this properly, but it should be set up so that you can see some of the slides I'm going to be chatting through today. I'm going to wait a couple of minutes. I know there are a couple of people still coming in, so we will be beginning shortly. Okay, I'm just going to try and get started, make sure that all the slides are showing. Let's see if that works. There we go. I'm not sure if my video is showing at the same time, but if it is, you might see a cat in the background, and that's Daisy, and she says happy Friday too. Thank you so much for making the time on your Friday to spend it here with us at Buffer. I'm really glad that this time worked out for you, and if it didn't, we do have a recap. This will be live on YouTube later. So to get started, I am really excited to chat with you all about 5 quick ways that we're going to be building PR strategies with social media. My name is Haley, and I'm a press crafter at Buffer. I've spent quite a long time now working on PR strategies through social, and over time have developed some of these strategies to make PR work more effectively with social media. I have to say that these aren't perfect. These are things that I'm always refining and changing and building on, but I hope that they will work for you. The thing that I realized when I was putting this presentation together is that these strategies can actually be broken down into 5 words: follow, research, engage, discover, and leverage. And it would have been really cool if these words would have also been something that would have made a word, but I tried to pronounce it and it's freddle. Let me know if anyone has ideas for rearranging these so that they can become an actual word, because that would be kind of fun. So I'm really excited to dive into each of these a little bit more. Before I do, I want to mention that my Twitter handle is in the lower right-hand corner of these slides. And if you have any questions or comments or feedback, I would be super happy to respond to anything you send my way on Twitter, and I will try to do so as quickly as possible. So let's get started with follow. The first step, and I think one that most people do naturally, but I just want to dive in here to make sure that we're all on the same page. So social media is super powerful, and I think one of the best things that you can do using social, especially as a PR professional, is to use it to follow trending news and industry topics. And not only that, I mean, I follow along with top reporters from outlets that I'd love to get Buffer covered in. And then when I realize that a few of them are talking about the same thing, then maybe it's a subject that we could totally contribute to as well, and I'll reach out. But I'm getting a little ahead of myself. The important thing here for PR is that you want to be on top of what's happening, and there's no better way to do that than with social media. Twitter is my personal favorite. Let's see, here we go. Twitter's my personal favorite, but I know a lot of people find great things on Facebook as well. Another one that I use quite frequently is Feedly, and Feedly comes in handy for scanning headlines. So something that I actually really like doing is looking through all the headlines for different news outlets, especially ones that I might be interested in pitching and looking for trends. And sometimes there are patterns in the things that they write about or the way that they phrase a story. And I find it really helpful to just get in the know and understand really how those news outlets are using the headlines. So I use Feedly for headlines. You can use Twitter as well, Facebook. I'm sure there are tons of options. Use whatever method works for you, so long as you're on top of that industry news. So in short, you can follow reporters, writers, journalists, editors, news sites in your industry. Medium is another good one to watch for writing. Whatever means they might use the most, and also the means that you check the most frequently so that it's really natural and you can really keep yourself in the loop there. I have quite a few reporters on Snapchat too, which is kind of funny. It's really cool to get to see a peek into their everyday lives, so sometimes that's helpful as well. So with social, the sky is really the limit. You can follow on Instagram, whatever it might be, just keep in the loop and keep tabs on them. And that will help with our second point, which is, I have the roundup there. I'll leave that up for 1 second. And the second point is research. So now that you're following all of these people and outlets on social and looking for trending news, it's key to kind of like dive in a little bit more then, especially with reporters. So before you do any pitching, I always make my way over to their Twitter profiles. There's so many things that change with reporters and with the news outlets on a day-to-day basis. So I will go in and check for tweets, check to make sure that they're still at the outlet that I am pitching, check that their email is still correct. And sometimes even on Twitter or on Facebook, you'll see reporters that will share things like how they like being pitched and what not to do, almost some examples there. So I remember once I read up on a reporter and she mentioned, pitch me in only 2 sentences. And had I not known that, if I hadn't researched, she definitely wouldn't have read my email because it would probably have been maybe 4 or 5 sentences. So I really had to cut it down. And I knew that if I kept it to that format, she'd be way more likely to respond to me. So research, you can really never do enough of it, like front loading all your work so that it will work out a lot better for you in the future. So definitely take to Twitter for that. And then another way to do research is, for me, creating Twitter lists is very helpful. So I'll take all the reporters that I talk to in any industry or that write about a particular topic, bloggers, editors, news sites, and I'll create these private Twitter lists so that I can keep tabs on different things that are happening and what different reporters are talking about. So I have different lists. To give you a couple of examples, I have just all reporters, so any reporter that I've ever stumbled across. I can't say that was the best decision because now it's like a 500 Twitter account list that I have, and I'm not sure if it's super valuable, but I'll create different lists, like if there's a particular story that we're doing a buffer campaign, and I think that a couple of reporters might be particularly interested, I'll create these lists, and then I can follow along with only their tweets and kind of scan them to make sure that I might be there and that what I'm thinking about pitching them is something that they're talking about or interested in right now. This is also helpful because while Twitter is wonderful, you might not want to follow the 200 reporters that you're interested in talking to. So adding them to lists is just like a much more clean way to make sure that you're getting the right information there. Yeah, a couple of other examples include I had reporters at one point in a list for like health reporters or reporters for a specific city. And I just had these private Twitter lists. And I feel like that helps me a lot. Sometimes reporters will send out questions on Twitter too, where they're like, hey, I need someone for this. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in Discover. But I find that having them in these Twitter lists helps me catch those opportunities, whereas I might miss them if they were in my regular Twitter feed. So as you can tell, I'm a big Twitter list advocate. I'm not sure, I'd be really keen to hear, send me a tweet if you're also into Twitter lists, because I feel like I get mixed opinions on this. Some of my friends, like, have never created a Twitter list and have no idea why I'm so excited about them. And others are just as insane as I am and have like 30 private Twitter lists. And I mean, I have lots of public Twitter lists that I use as well. But I would be really keen to hear what you all think on this one. So definitely send me a tweet there. So that was it. So we're follow and research. And then the next step is engage. So we're not just gonna stare at these people online, but ideally actually end up talking to them and building real relationships. Although gathering all the information first is the best way to go forward. So the key is to build relationships. I mean, social media is amazing in that you can connect with so many people in real time, and you can connect with people around the world. So use that to your advantage. I know I love using social for like connecting with friends and networking and that kind of thing, but it's also wonderful for those professional relationships and chatting with reporters and bloggers and journalists. You can use any social network where the people that you're interested in engaging with are active. Twitter is definitely one of the most popular ones, but Instagram, Snapchat, none of these are off the table either. And so it's the same situation where if you've researched in advance, you have a little bit more information, you know, where they might be hanging out. Like I know there are some reporters that I've seen that are on Snapchat all day and they're never on Instagram. So I would probably not go to Instagram to try and pitch them, but maybe I would reply to a couple of their snaps or send them a tweet or something like that. A couple of examples for engaging, it very simple. You can send a tweet or sending an email to say thank you for press mentions, especially if you weren't in the loop on them. This has happened to me a couple times where a reporter will maybe include Buffer in a roundup and they didn't reach out to me because they had all the information that they needed. So they published the roundup, which is super wonderful. And I kind of come across it and I'm like, oh, wow, this is amazing. And I don't even know this reporter. So I'll send them a tweet or an email, whatever might be the best fit there, just to say thank you and for including us. There are so many ways that you can use this as well. I've used Twitter, so with those Twitter lists that I very heavily build, I've used Twitter to engage with reporters in a very genuine way too, not asking for anything necessarily, but just going in and commenting and adding value and adding thoughts where I have them. I've had some great conversations with reporters on some of the other pieces that they were writing that were completely unrelated to anything that I was working on at the time, but that I was just genuinely interested in. And going in and commenting and doing things like that, it just helps build those really genuine relationships. And it helps it too because, like PR and social media they go together really well. And in the end, you're going to end up wanting to email or maybe sending a direct message, whatever way that this reporter prefers to be pitched or to be talked to. And if your name has already come across their radar in a positive way on Twitter, whatever it might be, just where you're genuinely engaging, then I think they're a lot more likely to pay attention and to give you the time of day to at least open your email or to chat through some things with you. So that's another example of adding value that I've done in the past is commenting on articles where I maybe have strong opinions or just like some thoughts or questions about articles. And so that's always a nice way to engage and to just keep building that relationship. So that is another option. Let's see if I have that bullet point down there too. And connecting people. So this is a really good one that I found very helpful. So over the years, you just end up like meeting people in your industry. And I'm sure all of you being on social media, you know lots of people in lots of different places doing lots of cool things. So sometimes I see reporters that are looking for a source for a story that is completely unrelated to Buffer or anything that we're working on. But I will connect them anyways because I want to be providing that value and I want to be helping build relationships with these reporters. And that has been a very good one for me. So if you see any tweets get sent out or something where someone's looking for a source or a comment or a quote, I've just like pinged my Facebook friends before with questions from reporters to see who might answer and connected them that way. Whatever it might take to just bring people together to make better stories for the reporters is always better for you as a PR professional. So that's been a very powerful one for me as well. And social definitely helps facilitate that. Next up, discover. So surprisingly, I'm not sure I'd be keen to get you guys to, I'm sorry, I'm asking you for lots of tweets here, but I would be really keen to know who among you has gotten PR opportunities before through social media. And I might just check Twitter quickly to see if anyone has any quick thoughts there, because I feel like the PR world can sometimes be divided here. So let's see. Oh, I can see a couple people are very big fans of Twitter lists. I really appreciate you sending me those tweets. I'm really glad I'm not alone. And it looks like a couple of people have found opportunities through Twitter as well. So social is very powerful for that too. So I'll dive into it a little bit more. This is something that I feel like I discovered a little bit later in my PR career. I was always really keen on just kind of like email pitching and researching reporters through whatever outlet I was reading their stories on, but not maybe diving in a little bit further. So along the lines of engaging with reporters, there are specific ways that bloggers and journalists and writers, reporters will use social media, and sometimes that is asking for sources. And it turns out that they sometimes all use a similar hashtag, which is just like so wonderful for social media. So, oh, I'm still talking about Twitter lists. I'm going to jump into those a little bit more, and then I will get back to the hashtag, which is very exciting. But essentially, I'm sorry, I'm so keen on these Twitter lists, but I really hope that they're helpful for you. So once you've created all of them and you have all these really wonderful reporters and all this awesome content, make sure that you are checking in and following along there. I've stumbled across some really funny tweets and like interesting things happening before when you check in on those lists. So because they're not in your regular Twitter feed, they might not always be top of mind. So just create that habit of checking in. Thank you for bearing with me as I talk about Twitter lists. And the next thing is hashtag journo requests. So I want to say that I discovered this year. I'm sure that there are probably a few of you that have known about this for far longer, which is really exciting to me. So I found out about this, and it's a hashtag that is online that reporters will use on Twitter, but there's also journorequests.com, where there's a company, and they will send you email roundups of those requests, but they filter them out. So what I ended up using, and I'm not sure if some of you might be familiar with this, but one of our other buffer products is called Respond, and Respond is used for customer service on Twitter. And one of the things that you can do in Respond is follow along with hashtags. So for the longest time, I was following along with hashtag journal requests in Respond, and there's quite a lot to filter through there. There are blogger requests, there are lots of different things. And then I found journorequests.com, and if you give them your email every day, they'll send you a digest of the best journal requests, and they'll break them down into different categories for you. So health, finance, business, whatever it might be. I think they have fashion as well. And so I've used hashtag journal requests for a couple of months now. The thing worth mentioning is that this seems to be mostly European and UK reporters. I've found quite a few global reporters, and then with the way that the world is today, a lot of these are online publications anyways. So it's not like it's going to be, I mean, some of them are probably print, but the fact that they're online means that you can still share them, that they're still valuable. If your company doesn't necessarily need to be in one specific area. If it does, I'm kind of hoping that journal requests gets picked up in the States. I was mentioning it in the States and Canada in general, and I was mentioning that to a couple of people. So hoping to start a trend, but right now it looks like it's mostly the UK and Europe with the odd global opportunity thrown in there. I've actually had quite a bit of success with journal requests. Surprisingly, I was just chatting with The Guardian the other week, and that's crazy, right? Like, I wouldn't have pitched this reporter because he was writing a story on getting hacked, and that's not something that I'm like actively looking for, but it is something that has happened to Buffer before. We got hacked in 2013. If you're interested in reading about that, I thought it was really interesting. It's all on the blog if you Google it. And so I ended up talking to him about that. And that opportunity would not have come forward had it not been for journal requests. So use social media to your advantage for this. Reporters are out there looking for sources and sharing opportunities. So you can find them using this hashtag, using the website journalrequests.com, or following along with the lists that you've custom built. And I would just not be afraid to engage there and really really dive in and look for opportunities. You'd be surprised what you'll find. I was forwarding quite a few of the opportunities along recently to some other PR friends that I have, because I've seen lots of luck with that. Along the same lines, and I'm not sure if I have another bullet point for this. Yes. So check out HARO, Help a Reporter Out. I feel like this one is probably something that a lot of people will know also, but it is another email digest. I have to say that journalrequests.com has a much more beautiful digest, but HARO has a very simple one. It's very effective and it gets the job done. And so reporters can put in that they're looking for sources there, and you'll just get the email, and you have to reply via email as well. So I've had some different success with HARO as well. I feel like, so the thing about HARO is that sometimes you can't see what the outlet is or what the reporter or who the reporter is. And with journal requests, you can, because it's coming from their Twitter account. So I have a preference towards that one, but I definitely didn't want to leave HARO out either. I think it's very powerful. I would really love to hear if anyone else uses journal requests or HARO, and what your success has been like there, or what your experience has been like. I think that there's a lot to be said about using social for discovering stories that way. And last but not least, leverage. The only letter that made it so that this was not a pronounceable word, but a very important letter, so we were not going to scrap it. So leveraging social media to your advantage in PR. This can be oh so powerful. So you definitely already have, and I'm sure that there are lots of different types of PR professionals with us today, but there is some sort of network that you're involved in. And for me, it might be that I'm leveraging the CEO, Joel and Leo's network when something is happening, having them share on Twitter, Facebook, or LinkedIn. Another option is leveraging employees at the company that you work for. So getting them to share on social media. And that can be very powerful, because when you're doing something with PR, the whole idea is to have people talking about it. And if you can start with your network talking about it first, just to kick it off the ground, that's always a really great head start. So if you can check with founders and employees and just kind of like, just plan to use those to your advantage, I think that can be quite powerful and helpful. And social can spread very far. You never know what will happen, if a tweet will take off, if it's especially interesting, or if a YouTube video, or if Periscope. And that's another thing, using social media in really unique ways when you have company news can also draw lots of attention. I can remember I've seen so many cool product unveilings happen via Periscope or via Facebook. And it's not just big companies, like big car companies that can do that. Anyone can do that. And so that's the great part about social media, right? And I think that something that would be really cool is using founders and employees in Facebook Live video, or on Snapchat, or on Instagram, and just leveraging that network and using it to really start building a story and spreading a message. Social is amazing for that. Definitely don't discard it. And the second part is product launches, and I've touched on this a little bit as well. Whenever we do product launches at Buffer, I work very closely with Brian and everyone else on the marketing team, but Brian in particular handles social media. I'm sure you've seen him all over our Facebook. And the idea being that any message that's being shared through PR that I might be crafting to go on social, and then also if there are any articles that might be starting to get picked up, that those get sent out on social as well. So just working together, especially is also easy. I'm sure a lot of you wear multiple hats, and you might be both the PR person and the social media person. So these conversations can happen much more quickly in your head. But the idea being to send out lots of posts, and as you're generating traction for a product launch, and doing those unique things like I mentioned, potentially being on Periscope or Facebook Live, or using video to your advantage, using Snapchat, doing something a little bit different is always very powerful. So taking social and PR and using them together for things like launches can be really great. So I think that's probably one of the most, that's one of my favorite things to do with social. And that is it. I'm going to run through really quickly again those 5 words that do not spell one word, but that I wish did. Freddle. So the first one we went through is follow, follow along industry news, follow reporters, research reporters, what they're writing, research what is happening right now before you send any pitches out. Engage with reporters and create genuine relationships through social. There's so many tools to do that, and to do that properly. Discover, so using social media to find amazing PR opportunities with things like journal requests and help a reporter out, and just through the incredible amounts of Twitter lists that we are all creating now. And leverage your existing network, leverage your social media clout and your employees, and any exciting things happening like launches to use social media and PR in tandem and create some awesome traction. So that's it. Those are the 5 words. Thank you very much. Those are the 5 words and 5 strategies. Sorry, I summed them all up in words. I hope these were helpful. Like I said, definitely send me tweets. I know a couple of people already were. Thank you very much. I will jump on Twitter after this and answer some questions there for sure. And if you would like to join us on Facebook, we would love that. We do Facebook Live sessions every Friday at 10 a.m. PST. That's 1 p.m. EST for us. And I have to note, since this just happened yesterday, we just launched a Buffer podcast. So if you haven't checked it out yet, it is called The Science of Social Media. And if you go to buffer.com/podcast, you should be able to find it there. The first interview is with the social director at NASA. And there's we have Rand Fishkin from Moz as well, and the VP of Marketing, Megan, at HubSpot too. So those are our first 3 episodes, and I would love to know what you think of them. So I thought I would give it a shout out, since that just happened yesterday, and it would be amazing to have everyone check that out. So thank you so much for joining me today and for hanging out. Let's see if I can say hi to everyone. Oh, there we go. Hey, thank you guys so much. I hope that the video is actually working now. I appreciate you tuning in. Definitely send me all your questions on Twitter. I'll send you a response, and have an awesome weekend. Thanks, guys.